it's Angel from Angel Mills Brand Strategy here. We are more than halfway through the business and wellness series here on the She Is Angel Mills YouTube channel. And of course, me being me, I finally come to the conclusion that perhaps I should do a little intro video for these sessions moving forward. If this is your first time meeting me, I am Angel, again, of Angel Mills Brand Strategy, and I specialize in helping emerging entrepreneurs grow authentic relationships with their customers. Feel free to click the link below to learn more about me and my services. I started the business and wellness series because I was thinking a lot about how I can transition my business to being more than just a marketing agency. Entrepreneurship, it's a lifestyle, not just an employment choice. So it's so important that we are mentally, spiritually, and physically well. And so that's what the Business and Wellness series is all about. We have had dozens of subject matter experts come to this platform and talk to us about so many different things: business, mental wellness, physical wellness, and spiritual wellness. If you are enjoying this content, please let me know in the comments what you think, what sorts of topics you want to talk about moving forward. I would encourage you, if you have not already, to go ahead and check out the rest of my videos for the Business and Wellness series on my channel, She Is Angel Mills. I do have a playlist, so you can check them all out there. You can also click the link in my description box to register for our upcoming live sessions. So I'm so glad that you are here, that you are motivated, that you are interested in taking your life to the next level. That's always the little cliche saying that we hear, but I know I'm all about that. So again, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I want to make sure I have my comments up. So if you all are able to hear me, definitely let me know so I can make sure I'm not talking with no sound. And I also want to encourage you to introduce yourself in the comments. I want to know who is in the room tonight. So use those comments to give us your first name, where you're representing from in the world. And of course, if you have a business, as I always say, let's use those comments to network. So definitely do not be shy to share some of your business information. We're going to have a really good conversation tonight. So you're also welcome to use those comments to ask questions and to basically engage. And also, if there's anything that resonates with you that you hear tonight, definitely let us know in the comment section. Give us a yes, amen, thank you, this is so helpful, all of that good stuff, because we really want to know what things are sticking out to you tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about our topic and why I thought that this was so important for us to have for the Business and Wellness series tonight. So one of the major things, of course, is that COVID has been crazy this year, and a lot of us were able to receive some of the different funding, economic injury loans, SBA loans, different things like that, that were available for entrepreneurs during this time period. And some of you are probably wondering, okay, I got the loan or the grant, and now what do I need to do to make sure I am remaining compliant? So of course, during this business and wellness series, we have some things that are around wellness, and then we have some topics that are around really strong business matters that you need to be aware of to be a savvy entrepreneur. I also want to let you know that if there's anyone that you think would really be helped by this conversation that we're going to have tonight, go ahead and share this link with them. They can join us live if they're able to, and then the replay will stay at this link as well. So even if they see your text message later on tonight, they'll be able to click that link and watch the video, because there's going to be some really amazing information shared tonight, and we want to make sure that everybody is in the know. And of course, if you like this kind of content, if you're interested in different topics to expand yourself in business and entrepreneurship, then definitely like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are informed and you're one of the first people to know when new videos come out, either live or pre-recorded videos. So with all of that being said, I want to introduce our speaker for tonight. We have Yohan with us. If you've been a part of the community for at least as of earlier this year, then you've heard Yohan has come to talk to us at least 2 times, possibly 3. If you're from the Atlanta Business Strategy Meetup community, then you may have heard him speak 3 times. He's spoke to our group before. He is a CPA, and he just has amazing information around finance and around accounting for entrepreneurs. So I'm going to introduce Yohan and read his bio. Yohan Bita Minsili is a CPA MBA. He is the founder and managing partner of Minsili CPA LLC. He is a certified public accountant and earned his bachelor's of administration in accounting from Georgia State University's Robbins School of Business. In addition, Yohan holds a Master of Business Administration with a focus in accounting and management from Mercer University's Stetson School of Business. Yohan has over 14 years of professional experience preparing individual and business tax returns and conducting consulting and audit projects. He has worked with clients in different industries, including construction, real estate, distribution, retail, cosmetics, transportation, and information technology. Furthermore, he worked as a consultant for companies at different stages of growth, from startup to mature stages. Some of the consulting and auditing skills include financial and operational auditing, financial statement preparation and review, internal controls auditing and consulting, financial analysis and budgeting, information system review, auditing and implementation, and tax compliance planning. Yohan is perfectly fluent in French and an avid traveler. He is a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the Georgia Society of Certified Public Accountants, and the Institute of Internal Auditor. So I know that was a lot of information that we shared. If you are someone who thinks that perhaps you need some more one-on-one time with Yohan after he's done with the presentation, his information is linked in the description. And I'm going to go ahead and add him in, since I feel like I'm talking about him and he's not here. So, hey, so you will be able to reach out to him. He's also going to share some information about how you can work with him if you have, some different financial things. I know a lot of people, again, receive grants and loans and things like that, and are probably wondering, how do you stay compliant with that? So we're going to go over some of it in the presentation. And if you need one-on-one in-depth support, Yohan is there for you as well. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Angel.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Thank you, Angel. Thank you for the incredible introduction. I couldn't have done a better job myself. So I think going forward, I'll probably going to put it in whenever I need to introduce myself. So
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Play the video.
Yeah. So, and thank you to everybody on your platform. It's a honor, and I'm humbled to be able to present again this evening. Like you mentioned, the year 2020 has been a tremendously different year for most people, I would say.
Right.
Whether it would be on a health, personal health, or it would be business, or it would be job. It's been a roller coaster year for most people. So I think it's a blessing for all of us to be able to all join in tonight on this 1st of December, right? Almost the end of the year. able to share some knowledge and experience and uplift each other. So I definitely look forward to the presentation tonight. I hope it will be a good learning experience for everybody on the platform. And like you mentioned, please do not hesitate to ask any question, make any comments. This is a more of a discussion than anything else because we're all entrepreneurs, right? So we all learn from each other, we all push each other. So it's probably going to be detail that a lot of you are aware of that others may not be aware of. So as long as you bring it up, and that will make for a very fruitful and constructive, productive discussion. So,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you ready to get started?
Yeah, ready to get started.
Awesome. 1 second.
Okay. So I'm assuming everybody can see the screen. Angel, would you please say something? Make sure that everybody can hear me, can see the screen.
Sorry. Yep, we can see you. I just typed in the comments. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep, we can see you. Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay. So sometimes, just so you know, if you ask questions, it may take people a couple of minutes because they get it a few seconds later.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
So right now, so what I plan to do is to probably come out of the full screen every now and then just to see if there's any comments or question in the comment section. But at the moment, I will have a full screen display, so I may not be able to say any question. So you may have to sometimes say something if you think you need to intervene. So with that said, again, thank you everybody for joining this evening. This evening, I'm going to be having a overview and presentation and discussion that will go around some of the loan facility that was provided by the federal government earlier this year. So as we know, the pandemic more or less started around the month of February, March, which is when a lot of information just started coming out regarding exactly the health crisis that was happening. That health crisis essentially turned into an economic crisis, and natural behavior took place. Everybody decided to quarantine, business started shutting down, nobody was spending any money. So it was more of a snowball effect that affect pretty much every area of our daily activities. So with that in mind, the government decided to step in and create facilities that will essentially assist business of all sizes, including small business. And typically, small business will be something very small, one-person operation type of business. And for those, they came up with facilities that were backed by the SBA administration, the Small Business Administration, which is the branch of the federal government. So these are the items that we're going to be talking about tonight. So to go to the next page, the agenda for the evening, supposed to be introducing myself, but Angela has already done an excellent job doing so. Then I'm going to be presenting, give you a brief overview of the loan program that we're going to be discussing. Then I will talk about some of the issue and question that I think any business owner should consider when we talk about those loans. Then we will get into the meat of the presentation, which are the recommendation, the best practices for tracking the expense related to those loan program. And then I will also briefly talk about some of the items that business owners should consider if they're trying to apply for the forgiveness of the PPP loan, which is one of the facilities that was offered by the SBA. And then finally, we will open the floor for additional question and for additional networking. As Angel mentioned earlier, at any moment, please feel free to ask the question in the comment section, and I will make sure I address it as we move along. So about me, like I said, Angela has already done an excellent job giving all those detail. But I am a CPA, and I've been a CPA since 2013. And My practice essentially focus on tax preparation, tax planning for small and medium-sized business. I try to do everything in my knowledge, in my capacity to find credit deduction that the business and the business owner will qualify for, depending on their activities. I try to assist them in incorporating tax planning in the day-to-day activity, i.e., whenever they spend money, they want to make sure that they can also anticipate on the tax effect of the spending that's happening. So, as part of my practice, I make sure that business owners are educated regarding tax compliance and tax matter, and making sure that they also stay compliant with any state, local, or federal requirement. So, brief presentation regarding the SBA loan that we're discussing tonight is to a facility. Just to clarify, the SBA does offer many other type of loan facilities, but for tonight, we're only focusing on two of them that were created specifically to help small business during the COVID-19 pandemic. One is the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as the PPP, and the other one is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also known as the EIDR loan. So a brief overview. The PPP is essentially a lifeline that was established for small business owner, giving them access to cash flow in order to meet the payroll requirement, and giving them that cash flow access for approximately a period of 8 weeks. So at first, the anticipation was they will have access to, they will be able to cover their expenses for about 8 weeks, and then later on, notification was made to the program where they can actually spend and track the spending of the loan over 24 weeks. One great thing about this program was that the owner had the possibility of having 100% of the loan forgiven as long as they spent the funds received on specific items, including the mortgage interest, the rent, the utility, and more importantly, as long as they spent that money on payroll for the employee or for themselves. And then the other item will be the EID loan. So by comparison to the PPP, the EIDL is a straightforward loan from the SBA. It's the application process is very simple. Again, it's geared towards small business. The requirements have been watered down because of the situation that most small business were in, and because it's backed by the SBA. Those requirements are very simple to meet for most small business owner. Like I said, essentially business owner only have to declare that they are meeting or they're going through some hardship due to the COVID-19 situation. And an interesting piece of the EIDR loan was that as part of that application, business owner were eligible for a grant up to $10,000. That grant was essentially free money that they do not have to repay. And even if they were not able to qualify for the remainder of the loan that they were applying for. So that's how it was slightly different. So now that we talked about those two items, I thought it would be useful and interesting to bring up a couple of issues that seems to come frequently whenever we are talking about those two type of loan facility. When it comes to the PPP, a very popular question is the amount that's going to be forgiven, is that amount of money that's considered to be free money, is that taxable? And the answer is no. The program was created to alleviate the burden that business owner had during the pandemic time. We are still in a pandemic time, but at the start of it, the objective was to provide them free cash flow. The objective was not to create another complicated tax situation that we have to keep up with. And because of that, that amount that's going to be forgiven is essentially not taxable. The caveat to that is because that money is not taxable, that also means any business expense associated to that loan is not going to be deductible for tax purposes. So if I have to give you an example, you receive a PPP loan of $20,000, you are able to have $10,000 forgiven, right? So any money that you spend on the $10,000 that's forgiven, any money that went to the payroll, any money that went to mortgage interest payment, any money that went to rent, or any money that went to any working capital item, such as buying supplies or paying contractor, none of that type of expense will be deductible for tax preparation purposes. Because the income is not taxable, the related business expense are not deductible. And now, regarding the EIDR, one of the popular question is, does the money that they receive as an advance payment, does it need to be reimbursed? And the answer is no. It's a grant. It's essentially free money given to the business owner. And now, because it's a grant, that's actually considered to be income. So that's something that any business owner that receive an EIDL and also receive the advance payment up to $10,000 need to keep in mind, because they will have to include that advance into the income. And also, because it's considered income, any money that they spent from that specific grant toward the business, those business expenses are then deductible for tax purposes. So remember, I was saying earlier that for the PPP, any money spent with the amount forgiven is not going to be a deduction. It's the other way around when it comes to the EIDL and any money associated with the grant. So if you spend any money on business expense, again, such as your mortgage, such as your car payment, such as supply, and you use the grant that you receive, all those expenses will be deductible for tax preparation purposes. And now let me go ahead and check the comment section just to make sure that we don't have any comment or question. Okay, all right. And let me go back to my presentation. And here we are. So more issue to consider. Some business who actually also have employee were eligible to receive both the PPP loan as well as receive employment retention credit. So a credit is a type of tax reduction item that's available when you prepare a tax return. And it's very valuable because it reduces the amount of tax liability dollar for dollar. So that means if at some point you owe $5,000 and you have a credit of $2,000 available, then you will net that with a credit and you end up owing only $3,000. So it's very valuable. So the question was, if the business is qualified to receive the PPP loan, can the business also use the employee retention credit? And the answer is no. They may not use both facilities. So by law, according to the IRS, business who are qualified to receive the PPP will not be able to use the employment retention credit if they have employee. So essentially, they're saying it has to be one of the two, but it cannot be both. Now let's go to our next item. Again, the overall goal of the presentation is for me to share, I want to say, important items, important information, and then we will have a discussion. So now we're getting into the meat of the presentation, right? Which is what are some of the recommendation and best practice that I can share regarding the best way to track your spending when it comes to the SBA loan. But first, I want to address what can you say is a risk if you don't have a tracking system in place, right? What's the worst that can happen? For one, if you don't have a tracking system in place, you essentially will not be able to properly submit any forgiveness application when comes time for you to submit that application. You have not been tracking your spending, so you do not know what type of information you need to be adding to your forgiveness application and the package that come with it. Then there's also the potential misuse and commingling of funds. As a small business owner, it's already very difficult to track your expense and avoid commingling your personal activity with your business activity. So in addition to making sure you separate those type of activity, now you also want to make sure that any spending that's taking place using one of the SBA loan money has to be separate. So you don't want to misuse those funds. Um, One of the conditions that business had to meet once they accepted the loan from the SBA was to make sure that they spend the money on business related expenses, right? And this is where it can be qualified as a misuse of funds if you receive the money but you do not spend it on business related expenses. It's one thing to spend it on business related expense, but then also there are specific type of expense that are encouraging you to spend the money on, and those are the expense where you will be able to have the debt forgiven. So as long as it's mostly focused on business related items, then you're meeting that requirement. In addition, if you don't have a tracking system, then you're not able to distinguish between what we call payroll costs and non-payroll costs. One big element of the paycheck protection program is that there is a huge emphasis on the payroll portion of it. So the payroll actually represents 60% of any amount that will be forgiven, and 40% will be the remainder type of expenses. So if you're trying to apply for the forgiveness, so you want to make sure that you are able to identify what are the payroll related costs, what are the payroll related expense, and also be able to identify the non-payroll related expenses. So not having a tracking system will essentially put you at risk of not be able to make that distinction. And then, as we know, the government essentially can change rules of the game at any time as they see necessary. So if down the road the some of the calculation rules were updated, some of the calculation rule will change, and you've not been tracking your spending, you're not been tracking your transaction, you're not going to be able to adapt and make correction on time and meet the new guidance or meet the new requirement. So that's what I meant by it will be difficult to amend calculation in case there's new guidance that be released. And we already know that, for instance, early on during this period, uh, in, uh, owner were allowed to spend money over a 8 week period. Then later on, they were allowed to spend the money over a 24 weeks period. As you probably know, there were different impact depending on which period you selected. So this is an example of why you should have a tracking system in place to make sure that if at any time the rules change and if at any time there's a new guidance, you are able to adapt your company to those new rules and stay compliant. So what are some of the best practice that I will recommend? The first one is to talk to your CPA, is to talk to your bookkeeper, is to talk to your accountant. If you're working with people that are competent, people that are knowledgeable, people who are up to date with any new uh, bookkeeping, accounting news out there, they may already have solution available that they just need to customize to your business. So I would say those professionals will be the first starting point that you should reach out to, and make sure that you can take advantage of their knowledge, especially if you employ them or especially if you used to working with them. So that would be the starting point. Now, if you're not working with any professional and you pretty much perform your bookkeeping, your accounting on your own, then you want to make sure that you create a separate bank account where you're gonna receive the money that's gonna be dispersed by the SBA, and you also want to make sure that that's bank account is also the only bank account that you use for any expense related to those loans. The separation of the bank account is very important, especially if you essentially a small business owner and trying to manage this aspect of your business on your own. It makes for simple tracking purposes, right? So whenever you are spending on your mortgage interest, whenever you're paying rent, whenever you're paying a contractor, and you think, okay, I'm going to use the money that was received for the PPP or the money that was for the EIDL, all you need to do is just use that specific bank account that you created for that specific purpose. And it will essentially simplify your life as you go day to day with your activities. Another option for those who are a little more sophisticated and those who know how to use an accounting program or an accounting system, you want to create what they call a cost center. So for each type of accounting program, you have the possibility to create a separate cost center where a specific type of expense will be logged in, where specific type of transaction will be captured. So creating that specific cost center will allow you to track any spending that you're making using one of the SBA loan. And once you've created a cost center, now you also want to make sure that you actually charge the expenses to those specific cost center, right? So again, you understand that the recurring theme here is the habit of one creating a way of tracking it and then actually capturing the information and the event as it goes along. So that's the point I'm trying to make here when I say you want to charge the eligible expense, the new separate account or the cost center. For business owner and small business that are, I want to say, very simple in operation, at the minimum, you want to capture the transaction in a timely manner. And at the minimum, you want to capture as little information that's relevant as possible. Those include the amount of the transaction, the date of the transaction, the nature of the transaction. A simple spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet will do. But this is really, again, geared toward those very simple, low number of transaction type of business. If you've attended any of my presentation before, you know I always insist on documentation. Documentation allow you to avoid future headache, allow you to stay compliant, and allow you to be more responsive whenever you're facing different type of issue or whenever you're facing different opportunity, right? Retaining documentation means that you maintain the cancel check, means that you retain the receipt, you mean that you retain the invoices, any contract. If you have employee and you run payroll, you want to make sure that that payroll information, especially if you use one of the loans to make the payroll payment, is also maintained separately. So make sure that you retain the supporting documentation for all your transactions. Also, for those who have were able to obtain a PPP loan, the tracking is even more primordial because if you receive a PPP loan, then technically you could have 100% of your loan forgiven. So pretty much you could receive free money over time. But in order for you to receive that free money, you want to be able to identify the payroll cost and you want to be able to identify the non-payroll cost. The reason why it's important is because 60% of the amount that can be forgiven has to come from the payroll costs. That's a requirement that the federal government imposed on the SBA and then in turn imposed on the business owner. And then 40% will come from the remainder of the type of expenses. That's the reason why you want to make sure that you are able to easily distinguish what are my payroll costs and what are my non-payroll costs. And then if for whatever reason some of your business activity fluctuates, so such as you lose employee, you add employee, you have to reduce the payment that you make to your employee because the situation is not improving, because you close the location. And we know a lot of business and business owner have to make those tough decisions. You want to be able to understand how those changes that you're making affect your compliance to the SBA programs. And the only way you will be able to do so is if you have a tracking system that allow you to quickly identify the impact that those changes are having on your compliance. Again, if I have to summarize in three main actions, so one, separate bank accounts or separate cost center. Two, capture. So make sure you enter all those transactions in those separate bank account or separate cost center. And three, document. Document everything, maintain all the documentation that you can think of related to those SBA loans. So if I have to summarize everything that I said, those are the main three items that I will need for you to remember. And finally, think it would be interesting for business owner who were able to obtain a PPP loan to also start thinking about what is that exactly do they need to keep in mind, do they need to prepare when they start applying for the forgiveness of the loan. The PPP is a very attractive facility, but overall, it would make sense from a business standpoint if you are able to get that debt forgiven. But what should you consider, right? So if you remember during the application process or during the creation of the PPP program, they will talk about an 8-week period, then talk about a 24 weeks period, they talk about an alternative periods. Well, how do you know which period applies to you? How do you know which period is best for your business? How do you know which period create the most forgiveness for your loan? Those are questions that you want to take in consideration, questions that you want to think about. And this is where somebody like me comes in, and you want to have a conversation because there's no straight answer to it. It really depends on your business. It depends on the fluctuation of your costs. It depends on the nature of what you spend your money on. So there needs to be a conversation with your accountant professional and make sure that you have a good understanding of what is the best period for you to include in your application in order to capture the maximum amount of money that will be forgiven. And like I mentioned earlier, because there is a 60-40 split on the forgiveness, 60% being required to come from payroll costs and 40% being required to come from non-payroll costs, you want to be able to identify the payroll and the non-payroll costs. So which transaction do you include and which transaction do you exclude? So for instance, when we talk about payroll cost, do we include the employment taxes that a business pay? Is that considered a payroll cost for the business? Do we include the insurance that you pay on behalf of your employee? Is that considered a payroll cost? So again, you need to have conversation with your professional accountant and make the determination that you are actually looking at the right items. You are looking at, you have a complete picture of the transaction. So for other business that are, and here I'm referring to a small business owner, a lot of them tend to be sole proprietor. A lot of them tend to be partnerships. And there was also a talk of what I call the owner compensation replacement. So how do you as a small business owner, as a sole proprietor who does not give themselves a salary, but then they are affected by self-employment tax, how do you apply for forgiveness, right? So if you had the owner compensation replacement, which is essentially the net profit of your business, and you multiply by 2.5, how would you essentially apply for that forgiveness? What exactly should you consider? So again, these are discussion that you should be having with your business professional, with your accountant professional, and make sure that you have a good understanding. So that's my presentation for tonight. Like I said, I wanted to give you a good overview of items to consider. I want to give you a good idea of the task that's ahead for many of you who are able to obtain the different type of loan. And now I'm opening the floor for specific question and specific discussion. And let me come back to the main screen. Angel, are you here?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So, one of the questions, and yeah, feel free while we're chatting to add questions in. I know we talked a little bit. I wanted to focus a lot on the EIDL
Okay.
loan, since I think a lot of people that was like a little bit easier for people to obtain. So I would
That's
imagine
true.
a lot of people watching this probably have that loan.
Mm-hmm.
As far as paying interest on the loan, because I know, just full transparency, I was able to get one of those loans, and I know they're already sending me documentation around paying some of the interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't exactly sure how the interest works on that loan.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can talk about that, does the interest actually start accruing now, and then payment is you have until, what is it, like a year to start paying on it, or how does that process work? And do you recommend, if interest is accruing, do you recommend paying it?
No, interest is not accruing.
Okay.
The whole loan repayment and interest start to calculate at the maturity of the loan. So a year from now is when
Okay.
the interest and the principal will be due.
Okay.
Remember, the loan was essentially created for small business owners, so they're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to quote unquote make money on your
Mm-hmm.
activity, but it's really to give you a lifeline while this period blows away. That's the idea.
Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. So if anyone else has questions about that, feel free to hop in as well. And so for the forgiveness, so I know definitely tracking those expenses, you talked about having a separate bank account. Is there places that you recommend for people who maybe do not have someone who is managing their taxes and things like that, or their finances for them? Do you have
Hmm.
some recommendations on how they can kind of stay abreast on what some of the different developments and changes may be, so that they can make sure that they're remaining compliant?
You mean like a website or like an information
Right. A
board or something of the
source or
sort?
mm-hmm.
Well, something specific, not really. I would say if on a periodical basis they simply do a Google search of the latest guidance on PPP application,
Mm-hmm.
they should be able to obtain the information that they're looking for. That's for one. And for two, um, when it comes to the paycheck protection program, for instance, remember it wasn't done directly through the SBA. It was done through third-party bank and other
Okay.
financial institution. So
Mm-hmm.
the financial institution that you apply through, if so, for instance, some business owner were able to apply through PayPal, some business owner were able to apply through Square. So they're the one who actually issue the loan to you, and it will
Mm-hmm.
be in their best interest to actually provide you the information that you need in order for you to apply for the forgiveness of the loan. So I would
Right.
say they will be your first point of contact as far as obtaining specific information regarding any change. And also, they will be the first contact regarding what type of documentation you're actually supposed to be provided to them, because that platform will actually varies from one provider to another provider.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So again, that will be the starting point. And now
Right.
when it
That
comes
is
to the
true. Right.
when it comes to the EIDL in general, or all those programs in general, simply keeping up with news would be very helpful, because even the SBA SBA.gov website has updated information regarding any changes, regarding any new guidance that they are recommending the business owner follow.
Absolutely. Okay. And then we have Lillian here. Hey, Lillian. Lillian is an active business and wellness series, which I just realized we don't have the banner up. Maybe I might add it. Participant. So we're happy to have her today. And so one of her questions, I guess, is around, I'm assuming, Lillian, you didn't apply yet for those PPP or SBA. Are they still accepting applications at this
No,
time? No.
unfortunately,
So,
no.
okay.
No, this program is being closed. So at the moment, the federal government and Congress are working on another quote unquote stimulus package bill.
Okay.
And they're hoping to repeat some of the package that they offer, package geared towards people that receive wages, and then package geared towards small business owner. So there's a good chance that you may have another
Some other
funding for,
opportunity.
yeah, for another PPP program or EIDL, but at the moment they essentially run out of money. The hope is that they run out of money for good purpose, because there was also a lot of
Right.
fraud around those
Yes.
different programs. But we'll see.
So hopefully now that they've kind of wasted a bunch of money to figure out how to improve that process, I hope that it's improved and more of that money is
Absolutely.
going into the right hands for sure.
Absolutely.
So that was a great question, Lillian. Just general recommendations around, because this tax season, of course, which you kind of did do the differentiation between if folks received a grant, then that would be considered income versus a
Right.
loan. What are just some things that you recommend for people to keep in mind moving into 2021 as they're kind of closing up the books for this year?
So it's pretty much touching on an item that I mentioned earlier, which is which expense you can deduct for tax purposes, right? So essentially, just think about it as you have income of $10,000, and you have overall expense of $15,000, so you have a loss of $5,000. But included in those $15,000, then you also have expenses that you incurred using the PPP loan, for instance, right? So if you use the PPP loan and then you apply for forgiveness, then all of a sudden, let's say 8,000 out of the $15,000 that I just mentioned is no longer deductible, because you apply for forgiveness and now that amount was forgiven, but then that essentially means that any expenses associated to the amount forgiven is no longer tax deductible. So you go from a $5,000 loss to now you have a possibly a profit, and now you possibly have to pay tax on your profit. So as you're closing the book, as you're getting to the end of the year, and remember, the PPP period actually run all the way up to December 31st of this year, 2020. So one thing you want to keep in mind is, out of that period, whether it will be the 24 weeks or the 8 weeks, how much of that would I qualify for the forgiveness? Because that translates into how much of the amount forgiven do I have expenses that are no longer are going to be able to use for tax preparation purposes. So you may be thinking you have a loss, or you may be thinking you have a specific amount of profit, but then when you realize that because you qualify for forgiveness, then any expenses that you had is no longer uh, usable for tax purposes, then now you have potentially a profit, and now you potentially have to pay tax on that profit. So that's definitely something that you want to consider. For those business owner were able to obtain the EIDL loan, that does not apply because it's a straightforward loan. As long as you
Is there forgiveness available for that one?
only the grant,
Only the grant. Okay.
yeah, and for the grant it was up to $10,000. I believe it was $1,000 per employee, and that was um, available up to a certain point. But once they run out of the quote unquote grant money,
Right. Then it was just straight loan stuff.
then it was just straight loan after that. So
Okay.
yeah, let's see.
Absolutely. And again, for folks who are watching this video, I know a lot of people are going to be watching it on the replay. Feel free to share this link out because a lot of people did get at least at minimum that EIDL loan. So I definitely want people to be thinking about how they can stay in compliance with that loan, how they need, or grant if you were able to get some of those grant funds, and making sure that you're able to keep your taxes right? Because we don't want to get into
Absolutely.
trouble.
No, you don't
With
want to get in
that.
trouble. You want to stay
Yes.
compliant. And one thing I want to reiterate is the fact that as a condition for receiving those funds, whether it would be from the EIDL or the PPP, anybody that received them is essentially agreeing to one, stay compliant to the SBA requirement. So that means you want to make sure that you actually spend the money received on business related items. If you do not, then essentially you're breaking the law and they can come after you and use that as a reason for coming after you, for lack of better words.
Be careful.
So you
Yes.
want to be very careful about it. And another reason why the tracking is important is because at any time they can also ask you to prove that you actually spend the money on business related items. So whether you receive that 5,000, whether you receive 25 or whatever the amount is, as long as you have all your invoices that show the money coming out of your account and being spent on specific business related items, even if those items are not forgiven, right? They don't qualify for the forgiveness. It's okay, but it has to be business related. That's the most important information here.
Okay. So for the EIDL loan, for the people who just got the loan, do you think that, and this I guess is just your opinion, because there isn't really forgiveness available for that, do you think that they'll just want you to pay it back, or do you think that they will require some sort of documentation for that?
I believe there's a threshold amount for which they don't require any document, but in general, as far as part of the agreement with them, they can ask you for documentation. The general rule of thumb, I believe, is that any amount under 25,000, I believe, they don't require you to provide financial statement on a yearly basis. But any amount above that threshold, then automatically, as part of your agreement to receive and maintain, you have to provide financial statement on a yearly basis. So for some business owner, they actually may be additional administrative cost, additional accounting costs, because if you receive the loan and then you have to provide financial statement, then that essentially means the financial statement have to be certified by a CPA. That's essentially what it means. If a CPA have to spend time
for people who received kind of larger amounts.
That's correct. And I don't remember the threshold. I believe it was 25,000, or it might be higher. I can go back and double check. But I do know there is a financial statement certification requirement for some amounts. But like I said, once you receive the money, you also pretty much agreeing to provide any documentation that it will ask at any time.
Okay. Okay. So definitely for folks, I know there could be some folks who are watching, especially on the replay, who may have received some of those larger amounts. So I think that's really helpful information to think about. And then there was something in your presentation where you talked about, was it salaries or something like that? I don't know if I quite understood what you meant there. So there was some discussion around salary and that being qualified. Was that more so relating to the PPP loan?
It was related to the PPP loan. So what I was saying is that um, the situation of the business might be different at the beginning of the application process up to the point where they actually receive the loan. So for those who receive the loan, I don't, if you recall, there was specific rule as far as how many full-time employee you should maintain as part of the loan that you're receiving. So they were trying to make sure that business owners who are receiving the loan based on the number of full-time employee actually do maintain those full-time employee going forward and do
Mm-hmm.
pay salary and wages to those employee. The risk was you receive the loan and then you essentially get rid of the employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for those who, for different reasons, some of them out of the control, were not able to maintain those employees, were not able to continue paying the salary, then how does the reduction on the salary or the reduction on activity, how does that affect your PPP compliance?
Okay.
So that's another item that they want to make sure that they understand. That's another item they want to make sure that they have a full picture of, so that they remain compliant. Again, this is not designed to be burdensome. This is not designed to be another complicated piece of information that they have to be providing to the government.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they do the great minimum to stay compliant, I think
That's the
they
most
should be
important
fine.
thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things Lillian said is, so good rule of thumb is to document every expense to be on the safe side.
To be on the safe side,
Mm-hmm.
document everything that you can document.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely I thought it was great advice that you mentioned having the separate account, whether it's an official business account or just a separate personal account that you use for your business expenses, because of course it's much easier to track that using that kind of account, using a separate account.
Yes.
My next question is around, I know you have some information regarding how people can reach out to you and work with you, because this stuff gets very complicated. A lot of people have their own special stories and different things that they have going on.
Mhm.
And I know all of this information isn't one size fits all for everyone. So how can people work with you and reach out to you if they need some one-on-one support?
So let me share the screen again,
Okay.
if you would.
Yep.
If you want to put it back and actually have it. So how to contact me. So this is how you can get in touch with me. You can email me, Yohan.minsili@minsilicpa.com. You can schedule an appointment through my website, minsilitax.com. I am comfortable sharing myself on here. You can call me and make an appointment. And as a promotion, I am giving 15% off to anybody that will schedule a consultation before March 15 of 2021. And as long as you mention the Atlanta Strategy Meetup Group, which is the Angel platform, you will get 15% off my regular consultation fee. Like I mentioned, I work with small to medium-sized business owner, and I do tax preparation, I do tax planning, I do business process implementation, and I make sure that there's an education that take place so that whenever a business owner make essential and strategic decision, they do understand the tax effects that those decisions will have, and they can incorporate those tax items into the decision making process. So it's not a hands-off interaction. It's more of a progressive education where after a couple of years, you become fluent on tax related items. You perfectly understand every single information that goes into your tax return. And it's an advantage for me as well, so that whenever we run into an issue, you are able to give me data that explain any discrepancies that we may have. So these are the way that you can contact me. And
Yes.
like I said, feel free to call, email, make an appointment on our website. And I look forward to hearing from you.
And that's awesome. And then you said this discount code is good until when?
It will be available until December 31st of this
Okay.
year. As long as you make the appointment before March 15, you will qualify for the 15% discount.
So you make your appointment before between now and December 31st, and then you make it some time if you want to make it some time for next year. That's great. Now, what was I going to say? Yeah, so also for folks who are watching the replay, this is really good because sometimes what happens is if you're not joining live, you don't get to take advantage of some of the special offers that our speakers provide. So this is great because you get to take advantage of that offer, even if you're watching the replay, which because a lot of people will be joining there. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of this. It's so important that you don't get in trouble with the IRS. It's
Absolutely.
very important that that does not happen. So
And
we
if you
definitely,
happen, please
yeah,
reach out. We can walk you through it. It's not the end of
yes.
the world.
Absolutely. It's not the end of the world, but we don't want that to happen. So we
No, we
want to
don't.
prevent that, especially because this year there's some brand new things that really haven't happened before with these different grant and loan programs. So people's tax
Absolutely.
situations may be different.
Yep.
So, and we've been working with Yohan for a while now. He's come and spoke. This, I think, is your fourth time coming to speak to us.
It
So
is.
we definitely love having you back here and enjoy sharing your knowledge. If you also want to check out some of the other videos on my channel, we have another video with Yohan where he went over some of the requirements for these loans and things like that. So if you need kind of a refresher on what types of things are going to be forgiven, he did go over that. And maybe I'll even, once we're done, I'll put a little informational link. I think it'll be over here somewhere for you to click on and check out that video because that also has some great information. And we streamed that February, March. No, I guess it wasn't February, March, April-ish. We streamed that. So definitely check that out as well. And I'll put a link, an info link up so you all can easily just click on that to check that out. And if we don't have any other questions, was there anything else you want to add? Do you have anything special coming up that you want to share with us?
Yeah,
Let us
absolutely.
know.
So, as part of this presentation, I thought it would be a good idea to maybe walk through a loan forgiveness application. I know a
Okay.
lot of business owner like to do it themselves. They don't necessarily want to pay a professional. So it will make sense to sit down with somebody like me, and I can go step by step regarding the type of information that is required to be added in the application. That's something that we can schedule in the near future if you think that would be of interest to the audience.
Yeah,
So we decide to
absolutely.
work on it.
So yeah, folks in the comments, especially who are watching the replay, if that's something you're interested in, actually having Yohan come back in the new year and really kind of sit down and have an application pulled up and we kind of go through each piece, let
Yep.
us know. Because a lot of times I think people are consumed with the holidays and then when January hits, it's like, oh shoot, I got to start thinking
Yeah.
about this stuff.
Take a lot of people by surprise.
Yes. And I don't want it to. So start thinking about that now, and we can definitely get that on the calendar. I think that would be super helpful to walk through that application for people because, as you said, a lot of people are going to be DIY in it, but we want to DIY properly. So definitely coming back. And then, of course, we can use this platform to share. As you all know, I love to use StreamYard. I'm using StreamYard right now, and I'll make sure I put the link to StreamYard if you're interested in doing any virtual events and streaming and sharing your screen. I love to give you behind the scenes of how we're doing everything over here. So I don't see any additional questions. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for what's going to be on the calendar moving forward. We will be back here this Sunday with Khadijah Nuruddin. She's also been to the group. I think this is her second time coming to talk to us, and we're going to be talking about content. So we're going to be discussing how to showcase your work on Instagram to increase clientele. So Yohan, if you want to join us for that, we'd love to have you in the audience
I'll
this
definitely add it
time,
to my
checking that
calendar.
out. Yeah. So that class is going to be really awesome. If you are, some of you watching may be a crafter or an artisan or a decorator, and you're probably wondering how to really showcase your work beautifully online and capture it well using things like your phone. So we're going to be talking about that. And I think this was an amazing conversation. We, again, if you want to check out, I just added this video to the business and wellness series replay list. So we have so many videos over there talking about different elements of business, including building your business credit. We'll have this video there talking about staying in compliance with any sort of grants and loans you got from SBA. So we have a wealth of information. So I want to ask you all to join me in thanking Yohan for taking his time to speak with us tonight. Please reach out to him. Again, I'll put the discount code. Remember, it's good till December 31st. If you would like to work with him and get some help and support with all of this, because you guys, it's a lot. It's a lot. I already feel like it's a lot. So it's a blessing that we have people like Yohan in the community who are able to help us navigate these waters.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. So thank you all again for joining. Again, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'll also be sending this video to Yohan, so you may see this on his channel or his YouTube page. Go ahead and give him a follow. His Instagram handle is here, and so is mine. So if you want to give us a follow and see what we're doing on social, feel free to do that, and we will see you soon.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.